The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg can drastically transform your life if you apply the principles that are within its pages. What's going on, guys? It's Nick from Mindful Mastery, where I help you master your mind. Today we're going to be looking at The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and I truly mean that the information within this book can drastically help to improve your life, because habits are what make up our everyday interactions and actions that we take. So changing them will help improve those actions and interactions. So let's get right into it with takeaway number 1. What are habits? Well, habits are unconscious actions that make up almost every single moment of our lives. Whenever we're driving, we turn right at a right turn, we turn left at a left turn, we speed up, we slow down. We don't think about it consciously, but that's because we've gotten so used to it that it's become a habit. Whenever our alarm goes off in the morning, we either turn it off or we hit the snooze button, because that's what we've done the past 100 days. Now, a habit is made up of a cue, a routine, and a reward. And this is what's known as the habit loop. This is because whenever you receive the cue for the habit, then you develop a craving for the reward. You then do the routine, and then you get the reward. Takeaway number 2, Keystone habits. So Keystone habits are habits that kind of have a ripple effect onto our other habits. So if someone smokes and then they drink afterwards and then they eat something unhealthy, then the Keystone habit is smoking, because that leads to drinking and then eating unhealthy. Now if someone exercises, then they eat healthy and then they do something productive, then the Keystone habit is exercise, because it leads to the other things. An example from the book is a company called Alcoa and its new CEO, Paul O'Neill. Now, Alcoa is an aluminum manufacturing company, and Paul O'Neill was a government bureaucrat before he became the CEO, so he really didn't have anything to do with business, and a lot of people were skeptical about how Paul was going to do since he had so little business experience. But he was good at making lists and identifying the habits that helped in productivity and the ones that hurt in productivity. And the one that Paul really tried to focus on whenever he got to Alcoa was safety. And he did this by setting up systems so that right after an injury happened, immediately within 24 hours, the manager of the plant would send a report to Paul and outline a solution to how to prevent it in the future. Now, Alcoa's safety wasn't that big of a deal beforehand. They were pretty good on the safety regulations and they didn't have too many injuries. But Paul wanted to get it to where not a single day was missed from work due to an injury. So that is why he set up this system. Well, what people ended up doing is 24 hours is not that much time for the managers of the plants to create a solution and prevention for the future injuries. So people would then write suggestions in the suggestions box for any potential injuries that happened in the future. So it helped make people more proactive in helping the plant, because they were rewarded for reporting those injuries. But this had another effect in that it helped improve the communication between the low-level employees and Paul himself. So people could make suggestions for the company, not just about safety. And all of these things helped reach their goal of safety, and they didn't have an injury or a day missed due to an injury for a year multiple times, and they also increased the profits drastically. This Keystone habit of safety helped improve the company's communication, support for one another, and their overall profits. Takeaway number 3, habit sandwich. Now, a habit sandwich is where you take a new habit that you want and then you stick it right in the middle between two habits that you already have. This is because we don't like change or anything new, so you want to stick it with something familiar in order to help make it more familiar and comfortable to everything that you do in your life. Radio stations actually do this with new songs whenever they want to try and make them more popular. They'll stick them in the middle of two songs that are already popular in order to try and help increase their familiarity and their comfortableness with all of the listeners. Takeaway number 4, free will. Now, there are a lot of habits that we have that might seem impossible to get rid of, but As long as we identify the habits that we don't need and that have a negative impact on our life and work hard to actually work towards getting rid of those habits, then we can, because we have the free will and ability to do so. An example from the book is a lady that has a gambling problem, ends up losing over $900,000 and going into debt and having to go to court because the gambling company sued her. She then counter-sued because they had ingrained the habit of going to the casinos and then gambling into her, so they argued that she was acting against her own free will because of that. But she did not get acquitted of the charges because she recognized that she had the bad habit. She just thought that she had it under control. But in the end, she didn't actually have it under control, and if she actually tried to change it, then she would have been able to, and she never would have gotten into this situation. Takeaway number 5, how to change your habits. So it's important that whenever you're trying to change your habits, you don't try to go completely cold turkey on whatever habit you're trying to get rid of, because then the habit is still there and it's not actually gone, and whenever you are feeling weak one day, it will find itself sprung up again and end your life. So what you want to do is replace the routine in the habit, but keep the cue and the reward. So first, you want to identify the routine. Now this is the easy part. Like if you have a drinking problem, then your routine is drinking, and from there you want to try and identify the reward, and to do that you'll experiment with the routine and try and figure out what exactly the reward is that satisfies the craving. So if you have that drinking problem, then instead of drinking a beer, go and drink some water or go for a walk, because you'll find that the reward might be just drinking something or getting distracted by going for a walk or something like that. But after you do each of these experiments, then you'll want to write down the first 3 things that come to your head, no matter what it is really, whether it's emotion or your craving or random thoughts, just to try and identify how you're feeling after you do the routine. And then wait 15 minutes and try to see if the craving is still there, because if it is, then whatever reward you reach from the routine is not the one that you need in order to keep the routine. But if the craving is gone, then you've correctly identified which reward goes with that habit, and then you can move towards identifying the cue. Now, whenever you're trying to identify the cue, you will want to write down 5 things whenever the craving occurs. The first is location, the second is timing, the third is your emotional state, the fourth is any people that you're around, and the fifth is the immediate action that follows it. And you want to do this for 3 or 4 days, and then you'll begin to notice some routines that pop up here and there. So if you find yourself going at 2:13, 2:14, 2:15 to try and get that beer, then the cue for the routine is actually the timing. So then you can know your cue and reward and begin to work towards switching out the routine and fixing the habit. So now that you know how to identify and change your bad habits, I want you to write down your habits for the first hour of your day and identify one bad habit that you have. If you don't have any in that first hour, then go to the second hour or the third hour and so on. And then I want you to write down ways that you can change that habit and identify what the cue and the reward is, and then try and switch it out for a different routine. And then you can progressively keep doing this with different habits throughout your day until you have all the habits that you want. I honestly believe that if you adopt the principles from this book, that it will drastically help to improve your life. And I really actually enjoyed this book, even though most of the chapters kind of go over the concepts with a bunch of different examples. I tend to kind of skip books that do this, or not really skip them, but skip past the chapters once I actually understand the principle of the chapter. But I found most of the examples that were provided very enjoyable to read, and like I said, it is very helpful in helping to shape and improve your life. So I definitely recommend getting this book, and I'll leave a link in the description. I hope you guys have a great day, and please leave any comments and actually tell me any habits that you want to change and what the cues and rewards are for them. Thanks for watching, and keep mastering your mind.